So look, Daniel, let's go ahead and kick it off. When you and I were talking, you basically like arm wrestled me down and said, look, I got two things that I gotta share, two specific features that have really moved the needle in our organization. And so when Daniel and I were talking about it, I said, Daniel, why don't you do a little bit of show and tell? Like just show them, share your screen, show them the feature that you're talking about.
Yeah.
But the purpose of this is really for him to go deep on how his team is using it and what the impacts of whatever features he's about to go over, how it's changed the dynamic of his team, right? The practical application of aspect of it. I think that's a good summary, right, Daniel?
Yeah, I would say that's a great one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Yeah. So I think to preface it, I'll share a quick story about the mistakes we made that led us to seeing the value of this. So if you run a team, a real estate team, and you distribute any kind of leads to the team, I don't care if it's from ISAs or directly to the agents, whatever it might be, you've probably run into some of these challenges that I believe I've run into, and you have all these different ways you can distribute leads. All right. We've tried round robin, right? You get a lead or get an appointment from inside sales, and you just kind of go around, this person's next, this person's next. Problem with that is when I'm just going to make up Sally Sue, the agent, because we don't have a Sally Sue, but when Sally Sue is next in line, but she's at a cookout with her family, she is not the best person to take that lead. Or maybe she is not great at converting leads in this location or whatever it might be. So then we're like, okay, let's do first to claim, the hungriest agent, right? The most available, hungriest. And then Sally Sue, she's the quickest on her fingers. She grabs that lead, she sees it, it's follow-up boss routing tool. And, we saw Sally Sue like pile up leads and hoard leads, and everybody else was complaining because they didn't get the opportunities. And we started using ISAs, and we thought it was great for the ISAs to be able to just, hey, you pick who you think is best. Like, we're here to make money. This is a capitalistic business. So if you think this, well, then I started having agents come to me and say, hey, Sally Sue is friends with Bob the ISA. So that's why Sally Sue's getting all the leads, right?
Sounds super messy.
Yeah, very, very, very messy. And, it probably was some favoritism, to be honest, unknowingly. But even if it wasn't, what it caused was so many conversations of fairness, with our company, and how the leads were distributed. So fast forward, a little while, someone introduced me to the not as pretty version of Maverick a few years ago. And probably the thing that has changed our business the most is the lead distribution tool, now called Pro Dispatch. And I'm going to share my screen here. Let me know if you guys can see it. I'm just going to share how it solves these problems, how it works. Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah, you're good.
Cool. So this is the lead router form. So when our ISAs get an appointment, they put in an ID of a lead and follow-up boss. So I'm just going to take one, just kind of show you how it is. Copy and paste, put the lead into here, and you load the lead. Now, if there were data points for this lead, it would fill in some things, but there's not many data points. As you can see, the name of this lead is test. So there's not many data points, but it fills in a lot of the stuff. Then the ISA comes in and they start selecting these things. They select price points, ranges, the price point exact, the area, the locations, right? And then we can get, the time frame of this person, right? Specialty type. So when we say specialties, single family homes, new construction, land, first time home buyers, sellers, right? We see that as a specialty. So these are all configurations that are designed to help get the lead to the right person. Now, the genius behind this, I wish I could say I invented it. I did not, but it creates a list of agents, right? Let's just say there's 10 agents that would meet this criteria, and it sorts them based on their conversion rate, right? So basically, if you've done well with the ones we've given you, you're going to have an earlier crack at it. So that solves a lot of the problems, and it's reduced so many conversations of fairness and how do I get more leads and how come Sally Sue is friends with the ISA and they're just the fastest on their phone. Hey, if you want more leads, you got to convert the ones that you've got, right? Now we have a system in place to give agents some leads to get going, to get started, so it's not like they don't have a chance. And then you might think, okay, well, what if like the top agent, they're getting all the leads because they have the highest conversion rate? The other genius behind it is it caps them. The system will stop giving opportunities to somebody based on the capacities that you put into the routing tool. And just to touch on how it's different, and you guys that's on Zillow Flex, up until today of filming this, we can put in capacities for agents to receive leads. I can put 10, 20, but it means nothing to Zillow. Like the agent, if they're 10 capacity, they can keep grabbing 20 or 30. In this system, it's smart. It's going to cap that person. So if you think about it, like leads are being distributed and they're flowing down in this beautiful format into the hands of the right person. And like I said, one of the biggest things, it reduces the conversations of unfairness or how do I get more opportunities or how do I get better opportunities? Now we have anybody that wants it, I'm happy to share. We have a lead SOP where we outline how you can get more. If your conversion rate is X, you can get more leads. If your conversion rate is X, we'll throttle your leads. How to earn higher price points, right? Because it's just like, I went to see the Red Sox play at Fenway last week. And, the batter that has the highest batting average, they're going to get the most cracks at it. Right. That's why that guy's probably the first person batting, because there's a chance that he's going to get more shots in the game. He's earned it. He should do it. He's going to do best for the team. So you can earn more opportunities. You can earn better opportunities, but everybody does get a chance with the system that's in place. And so this is what the reporting tool looks like. There's a lot of data in here, but I'm just going to direct your eyes to the things that I would look at real quickly. And I look at often. Okay. So the first one is the handout stats. So one of the things that it's shined a light on for us is who is actually available and fully invested into real estate, right? As we grow, we have about 85 agents, about 40 or so are taking leads. Like I'm not tracking on their phones, like where they are, like, what are you doing? Are you at the movies? Like that's really difficult to do. But I can see by looking at this, who's hungry, who's available, like who's ready to go, because I can say, hey, who has been offered a lot of leads? Okay, this agent has been offered 114 in 30 days. Now he's only taken 5. So then I would ask, like, why? Why are you only taking 5? You've been offered 114. And usually the answer is I'm busy selling real estate, which that's a good thing. So yeah, you shouldn't take leads. Or it could be I'm busy, grilling out every day or doing something that's not real estate related. Or they could be like, well, I'm not seeing the opportunities. And I'm like, well, they're right here. Here's the opportunities that we offered you. And I have this conversation so many times with agents, and usually it only takes one of these sit downs. And I'm like, here are all the ones that we showed you. And you're saying we're not giving you the opportunities. But I'm thinking, are you near your phone? Are you available? Are you ready to take these leads? So I could go deeper into a lot of this stuff, but for time's sake, any thoughts?
No, this is fantastic. So one of the things that I thought was really interesting, if you have 3 agents, you don't have 20, you don't have 10, you have 3, right? And they know that when there's a hot lead, as broker owners, as team owners, there's moments where we get a referral and we're like, I'm too busy for this, or I don't want to mess with it. Right.
Yep.
So like, I think you could use this tool, even if you don't have an ISA, instead of handing out based off of preference. But you talk to me about how, as an organization, something started to happen where they started to pay attention to their conversion numbers differently. Can you just share? We only got a couple minutes before we move to the next feature, but can you share what happened so guys, what are we doing right now? We're sharing with you a cool feature that solved a problem. And now what I want you to see is how it created momentum in his business and other areas after using this tool. So what happened from an organizational standpoint?
It's amazing. Probably a couple months after we launched this routing tool, and we've had it for a few years, we started to notice that the agents were much more cautious on grabbing leads, right? And that's kind of can be a problem in itself, but I want them to be. Like, I want people to think like, this is one I'm going to work. I had the time to work it. I want to work it. As opposed to before, It was just like, who could get as many and pile as many over in this corner without any regard of efficiency. So we used to celebrate how many deals you close, like just the overall deals. That doesn't necessarily equate to profitability. If you're a team leader, you have to think about efficiency, because you could have an agent that could close 100 deals, but they could be losing you money. And you could have another agent that closes 5 deals and you're making a lot of money off them.
Right.
So the agents started paying attention to their efficiency rate, and it made them nervous and cautious to take the leads. And they want to make sure that their conversion rate, which is right here.
What a fantastic thing to worry about.
Exactly.
Right. So listen, let me say this about this tool. For those of you that think like, I've only got 4 agents, I've only got 5 agents. If you're like me, when I get a hot lead or a referral, I've got someone that I typically am going to go to, because I know when I hand them the client, eventually I'm going to make money. They're not going to screw it up, right? And so as a team leader, especially those of you that are still selling houses, you're still in production, or a broker owner, you're just trying to solve problems all day, right? I guarantee you that there's an agent in the middle of your organization, not a top performer, not a bottom performer, somebody that if they were given the chance, they would crush it, right? And because we're doing what we've always done, we're giving our deals to that hot hand, you start to pay attention to that agent's conversion rate. And normally, while they close more than other agents on your team, which is ultimately what you care about, you start to see that their conversion rate is not that good, because you're sending them everything, right?
Yep.
What I think that this tool does, and Daniel already touched on one of them, which is everybody's obsessed with their conversion rate because the software is assigning the leads based off of your conversion rate. I think the other thing it does is it democratizes the opportunities in your organization. And it also shows you that more than likely you could hire more salespeople.
Absolutely.
Because you're handing out opportunities more efficiently. And because you're handing them out more efficiently, you're seeing problems from a different light. And I'm just telling you, most of you are just paying attention to who's closing the most deals. And I'm not saying not to pay attention to that, okay? Like you need to pay attention to that. But if you do that to the detriment of the efficiency of the rest of the opportunities and the rest of the salespeople, you are leaving money on the table. And so by having Daniel's whole organization running off of this efficient process, it's really a great way to go. And if you have, for example, Ylopo, you have AI voice. You could just have an admin go through and find every AI voice discovery and start manually putting these in this Pro Dispatch tool, start assigning them out based on conversion numbers.
Yep.
And so that's honestly, I don't know about you, Daniel, like what would you say would be the big takeaway? Because for me, that's how I'm receiving this. What I just said is like personally, my big takeaway for the first feature.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, it's a great point. This works whether you have 2 people or 200 people, because there's always going to be someone who feels like they're being slighted.
Right.
And as a team leader, as a broker owner, you want to stay so far away from that. You want to stay so far away from the appearance of favoritism. And it works because they know it is, a capitalistic system, that if they know in the beginning how it works, how I earn more opportunities, and how I get a first crack at something, then your culture is so much better. So yeah, it's just helping us focus on the more important number, the efficiency rate, and then just tracking that has been a game changer for us, and it's changed our culture for sure.
Yeah. So that's amazing. And my team is intending on executing on this at a high level as well, after listening to you talk about it actually the other day. All right. So the next feature, that's the first feature. This feature is helping Daniel make more money today. He's shared why. The second feature is the sales report. And what I told Daniel, he was like, oh, I got to go over the sales report. I was like, listen, can I be candid with you? Like, I want to love data. I do, right? I want to love it. I open it. I see all the graphs. I see all the numbers. And I'm like, oh, this is amazing. And then eventually, like, I get over it. And there's not actually a tangible change in my business. So what I asked Daniel to do was to lift specific parts of the sales report and share what changes he's made in his business as a result of seeing this data. And I know for me, when I was reading the notes and we were talking about it, I took away 2 nuggets. So hopefully you guys can. Daniel, can you go over the sales report a little bit for us?
Sure. Yeah. So the sales report has some similarities of what I just showed, which is the pro dispatch report, but there are some things that it has that the pro dispatch doesn't have. And I'll touch on a couple things that we focus on a lot. So, one of the biggest complaints you'll get from an agent is, well, the leads suck. Like, the leads don't work, they suck. And I don't know about you guys, but I only have so much time to like debate with an agent about how the leads aren't sucky and this agent's turning them and you're not, So, but with some of these tools, I'll just share real quickly how it saved me time in those debates, I guess, is, somebody might say, hey, the leads suck, right? And if you guys were at the Wailopo conference, I shared a little bit about this, but I love the feature that tracks the leads that have been taken away from somebody, which Barry's going to talk about, through the reassignment nudging tool, and tracks those leads down the line. The agent, what I've learned is, the epiphany that I had was sitting down with one-on-one, if it's out of their CRM, it's like out of sight, out of mind. Like I just assume, like, I'm going to take a lead away from somebody. They're going to know it's this person and they're going to not call and they're going to be mad at me because they have no clue. So this column, and so when I'm sitting down, I'll look at this with an agent and I'll say, hey, let's look at the leads that have been reassigned that you had once had. The rule had been broken, reassigned through the nudging tool, and now they're somewhere else. They're in a pond, they're with another agent, and I can quickly sort by stage. So these are all in low funnel, actively listed, showing homes. These are all that closed. These are all that closed that were with this particular agent. He's a great agent. Not picking on this person at all, but man, what a game changer to be able to sit down with somebody and say, hey, I'm sorry, at one point I gave you this opportunity, and some of these you can look through. I won't dig too deep, but if you can click on this, it'll take you to Follow Boss. And they're like, they didn't show up to the appointment. Why'd you give me this crappy lead? Like, okay, I mean, a lead is a lead. It's a human is a human. We stopped saying those words like it's a crappy lead, good lead, bad lead. It's a good lead source, a bad lead source. They are giving you humans who have given you contact information. You have to have sales skills to convert it. But just showing this, it's like putting a big spotlight. And again, it's reduced those conversations of good lead, bad lead. And I'm like, hey, this one went to this agent, Amber, she closed it, man. This one was with you. Josh, he closed that one, and they're like, what? Oh yeah, I remember that guy. And I'm like, well, yeah, you better remember him. Like, that's money sitting on the table, right? So I don't know any other tool that tracks that in this way, at least, that the assignment history, like who it once was assigned to. So that's something that I look at real closely. Another thing I look at and we obsess over, this is something that I talk about a lot on the Wednesday office hours, but is the appointment held rate.
So what is that?
Okay, so the appointment held rate is the rate, the efficiency rate at which, when we give you an appointment, how many of those people are you meeting? And man, it's like pulling teeth to get the agents to do the things we know that work to meet more people. But what I learned from this at a big epiphany moment 6 months into doing this, and I'm analyzing these numbers. And so some of these that are like 100, I'm like, okay, some of these agents aren't receiving leads. I know a couple that are. Some have only received like one appointment.
So they had like one appointment and they held it.
100 is not really big. Yeah. Where I like to, okay, Katie, look, I was looking at her today. Katie's a brand new agent. She's 2-3 months into the company. We've given her 49 leads, 36 appointments. She's met 30 of them, 83%.
What is Katie doing to keep all those appointments?
That's the question, right? And she's a newer agent. And so I was meeting with my sales manager, like, we need to call Katie. Katie, what are you doing? And when we've done this in the past and we did this with one of our agents, like, they don't know. One of our agents, Barb, said, Barb, you're meeting like 80-something% of people. Our average, if you guys can see this, is in the 60s. Okay. Held rate 63%.
That's really good.
I feel like that's pretty good.
Yeah.
But we can always be better. We started lower and we didn't know what our number was till we started obsessing over this stuff. But then Katie's meeting 83. What if I can get our average up to what Katie's doing? How many more homes we sell, money we make, everybody will be happier. And so that's my assignment. I'm just going to be honest. I haven't called her yet, but I'm going to be like, Katie, what the heck are you doing? And when we asked that question before, with an agent a couple years ago. She didn't know. She was like, well, I mean, I just do what I thought everybody would do. I called the lead. I, confirm the appointment. I think of another excuse to call him a few hours later, and then I call him the day before. I'm like, oh, well, that's it. It's multiple touch points beforehand, right? When a lot of agents, they get an appointment and they just text, great, see you Thursday at 1. And then we get surprised when somebody cancels it. Like, we have no social connection with that person for them to feel like they have to hold appointment when all they have is a text message from us. So we develop
what part of this, go scroll up a little bit so everybody sees.
So we're in the sales manager report.
Yes.
And I'm looking under the sales funnel.
Sales funnel. So, so guys, what I want to call out here, right? Because I don't know about y'all, it's a lot of numbers, easy to get overwhelmed, right? And so if what you just saw Daniel do was to use this data and picked one particular part of the funnel, right? So there's prospecting, there's setting the initial appointment, there's keeping the appointment, there's what happened to this after the appointment. Did they change the stage to hot, warm, or cold? How long did they nurture the lead? Did they get it under contract after that? Did it close? This data allows you to go in with a microscope and obsess about one part. When I did this for my appointments, I had a Katie, not literally, but a new agent that was crushing it with her appointment numbers. You know what she was doing? She had excitement. So when she sent the text, candidly, she used more exclamation points than she probably should have. Like, to me personally, I was like, when you use 3 exclamation points in the row, to me, like in 3 sentences, it's like you're yelling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not for her. She was just, she was on another team for 6 months and she was like, and she left a voicemail and she's like, I am so excited about talking to you tomorrow. I cannot wait. Let me know if you have any questions. Like, she just brought all this positive energy. Meanwhile, the other agents are showing homes, eating Taco Bell, trying to schedule a showing, driving at the same time while on a Zoom, right? And they're just like, see you tomorrow, right? And so going to my agents and saying, hey, this is what this agent's doing, and then telling that story to the rest of my team is a really big deal. I don't know about you, Daniel, but before having really granular analytics on stuff like this, I was kind of shooting from the hip as far as trying to lift examples by talking to my agents. But some of my agents just, they sell me on how good they are. The data bears out a different story though, right? But but with this agent, you know,
the data paints a different story. And I mean, we've just learned from Maverick the principle of finding who is doing something well in any stage of the funnel and building process out of that. And you made a great point, Barry, like with you generally with your top agents, you kind of like, hey, they're doing great, leave them alone. The bottom agents, maybe they're just not following the basics of what you're doing. And sometimes folks in the middle, like those are the ones you can move, or they're just not built for the business.
Right.
But like when I meet with Katie, I'm not going to sit and be like, hey, here's how we get your 87% to 94. I'm like, Katie, you're crushing it. You're beating everybody else. The data's showing it. Tell me what you're doing. And I guarantee you, I haven't talked to her. It's going to encourage Katie like crazy. And she's going to tell me what she can tell me. And I was telling somebody the other day, what Maverick's helped me do, you guys ever watch Captain Planet? I don't know why I think of this analogy, but like, our powers combined. So I told somebody, I said, what if we could take the best agent who has the highest appointment held rate, then the agent who has the highest closing rate, then the agent who has, you're going to talk about the AI call grading, who has the highest call grading that leads to appointment set.
Yeah.
And you combine that person, like that's the avatar you want to create. And you can figure out who is good at that. Like, you don't know because everybody's built differently. Like some people are going to be better at different things.
Right.
Like some people are just better at calling. Some people are better at setting appointments. Some people are good at having them held. You're like your agent. So it's helped us create the avatar.
Buy that costume and dye your hair green, I will come to the meeting.
Okay. Hey, we got it on record. Okay. We got that on record.
All right. So sales reporting, right? A lot more that you could share. This is a great example. Can you quickly share how you're looking at trends of closings and why for you, outside of just knowing where the money's going, what are some learnings that you've got from paying attention to the trends? And can you share your screen and show us how you pay attention to those trends?
Yeah. So, I mean, you obviously want to know where you're trending. And I'll tell everybody, we are down or up from last year. Last year was way down from the year before. I mean, if I'm the only one in that
Join the
world.
club. No, join the club. Yeah.
Exactly. But this year is looking better. So I think we're on track to do 610 deals. Like that's my average if I did it. But I mean, just on a macro level, if you're looking at this stuff now, I selected a time frame here that wouldn't help me too much. But if I went back and
Why
I
wouldn't it
selected,
help you to go 9 months? Just out of
well,
curiosity.
I'm going back here 3 years to see all the data because this was when we started with Maverick.
Okay,
But
got
I
it.
want to see a year. So like, all right, you can take any trend. I mean, you could say 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. I tend to look at things at a year.
Mhm.
Part of the reason is because the Maverick algorithm routing tool with Pro Dispatch tracks a 12-month conversion.
Got it.
So an agent can like get their average better if they work on it, and it drops off 12 months prior. So we're obsessing over that. So I'm just going to go 829 and just it will show you quickly. Green is good, red is bad. Okay. So we've set 67% more appointments in this last 12 months than we did the prior 12 months. I mean,
Okay.
you need to be growing. You're growing or you're dying. Scheduled in this time frame. So that's the appointments that are scheduled in this time frame.
Right.
This is appointments that were set for this happened in this time frame, I should say it that way. Accepted contracts were up 79%. And it's also important to note when we're looking at this, we're looking at team leads. One of the things Maverick helps do is help you sort the activity with your leads and not just the agents. It's like, I don't know about you guys, we charge more for the agents to convert our leads. I encourage them to work their own leads. I make more when we convert our leads, right?
Yeah.
So when I'm looking at like, just let's say Follow Up Boss's data, I want to know, are you calling the leads that I gave you? And Maverick does that. I don't know another system that does that specifically. I can look at the outreach. This is calls to the leads, like specifically the leads. But on back to like a macro level, I'm trying to understand what's my conversion rate. 8.3% conversion of the appointments that we set. That's including these pending deals. Am I trending upwards? Am I trending downwards? And that's looking at big picture. Like with data, you do have to kind of look at a bigger picture. You can start small, but the bigger picture you can see, the more trends you can see. Just like we said, agents that receive 2 leads, you can't really judge them on that.
Yeah. So let me say, like, some of you are going to go to this page and you're going to look at the same data and you're going to get overwhelmed. So what you just saw him do was share how his data is comparing year over year. Some things that I would do, just some practical nuggets here. This team overview of data, I personally don't see a lot of value in looking at a 12-month period, right? I'm going to look at like quarters, right? Like maybe January through March and compare it to April through June, right? 3-month, 90-day periods. And if I look at the team overview for outreach on this screen, I'm going to pay attention to the people in the middle. And I know I'm a broken record here, but this Josh Harris, I don't think is that a surprise to you that he's called more than anybody else?
No.
Right. See, like we all have those people, right? Where you go into the office, they were there before you, you leave, they're there after you. Okay, surprise, surprise. Josh calls more. Where I'm going to focus is maybe the fact that James has only had 136 call attempts and 60 conversations. How can I help James call more? Because I feel like if I can get James calling more, the fact that he's got 60 conversations means he's got a lot of natural ability. And I don't know about y'all, but people with natural ability tend to be lazy. I'm not saying James is lazy. I'm just saying, like, I'm going to say, James, tell me about your schedule, right? Tell me what you're doing, because you're obviously crushing it with your conversations. And I want to know how we can help support you to have more conversations. This is why this data is so important, right? Looking at appointment set, appointment scheduled at the high level is amazing. You can also drill this down to the individual agent level, I think, as well, right?
Yeah, you can
you could do one agent.
Agents. Yeah. On the sales,
which would be good for a one-on-one meeting, right? You can say, look, like, this is what we're seeing right now in the system based on your effort. Can you click on stage breakdown as well? I know I'm kind of going off script
no, that's
here.
good.
I get to see what the team average is on how many leads assigned, what their long nurture versus short nurture. So that's just a great way to analyze. And I found most people don't update their long-term nurtures, like cold stage, to
Mhm.
warm or hot. They just leave it cold. And
Yep.
this would surface that as well.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, in the getting your agents, one of the biggest challenges, I know there's other software out there that it's analytics, it'll track data, but Maverick, I feel like has solved so many of the problems of getting good data. And
Yeah.
just real quickly jumping back to, for example, the Pro Dispatch tool, the process, part of the genius is they get an appointment, and then 1 hour after the appointment, they get a text message on their phone that says, did you meet? Did you not meet? Yes, no. And then it updates follow up boss, which updates in here. They get another text that said, what stage would you put them in? And you select 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it correlates to the follow up boss stage, you update it.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Leave a note. You type a text, it puts a note in the follow up boss. It has helped us get good data because you really, I don't know about you guys, but like if I'm relying on agents to just punch in, the data, I met with this person and
We're not going to do it.
like, man, I mean, it's so hard, but at least that initial appointment, like I'm getting really good data. And then we have a sorting tool that says, hey, here are the ones that the agents have not responded to. And I can click on that. And I literally did it earlier today. I said, hey, I need you to update these. I sent her a spreadsheet from Maverick. You haven't told me what happened to these appointments.
Yeah.
And that's in the appointment routing tool, but freaking awesome. It helps you get good data.
Oh, that's great. That's great. All right. Thanks, Daniel. So, and also I'm getting ready to talk about the lead rules and the AI sales coaching, how it's just, we're making more money as a result. But let me just say something. When you're looking at the reporting, can I just ask you guys to stop complaining about how your agents don't do insert blank, right?
Mm-hmm.
How your agents aren't like you, right? If you were doing this, you would be crushing it. They're on your team because they're not like you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they were like you, they would go start their own team.
Yep.
Right. So the great paradox of being a team owner is that you know what you can do to help them be a success. You look at this data and you start telling them what to do. If they bought on to everything you were saying, those days are limited because they're going to go start their own business. So normalize just understanding, while I don't want to trap anybody on my team, I'm grateful for the people that need to be told what to do because that's why I'm valuable to them. And Maverick reduced my workload as a team owner significantly. All right, so fake drum roll. This is the new nudge screen. If you guys have not seen it, this is it. Okay. I think we went from, what was it, 7 rules to 20, 20. Big deal. It's broken up into 5 categories. And I'm going to try not to do a full demo of the new nudges because I do want to share with you guys how we're using nudges. But just quickly, you've got now, all these categories. You've got a general overview. You've got a nudge all button. You've got a reassign all button. When you unfold this, I'm going to start with lead activity. You've got 4 categories. The first 2 have to do when the lead was created. And has anybody called in the last 4 hours? Has anybody called in the last 12 hours? That's because with new leads, you got to act quick. Then you've got the lead called us. Nobody called back. Our agent didn't call back, which is just mind-boggling that every week I have a lot of those. Lead texted. And 2 hours have gone by. My agent has not responded. So that's lead activity. You can nudge. You can see the details right here where it says see details. And you can see all of those leads, just like, you click manage. I'm not going to go deep on that, but very similar. Then you've got nurture rules, right? So these are similar. This is the best stage, right? They're active. If we haven't spoken to somebody that we're showing homes to in 3 days, like they're past due. Somebody that's hot, maybe in the next 90 days, and it's been 14 days since you've called or texted them, that's going to break a rule. If they're in a cold stage and you have not called, texted, or emailed in 30 days, that's going to break a rule, right? And then this is just a general, like, why has it been a month and nobody's called or texted this lead? Unfortunately, I have some of those, right? 20%, 20%, 80% completed. So that's a problem for me, right? I've got to figure that out as a team owner. After nurture, there's database health. So really excited about this one. Let me close this. So this one is, there's been an appointment, and after the appointment, the stage has not changed. There's been no update to the lead, right? And so this is 1 day after the appointment. If there's been no update, you're going to see that there. If there's a task past due over 2 days, you're going to see a rule saying, hey, we've got 32% of your tasks right now are past due. If we reassign the lead and it's been an hour with no calls or texts, that's going to be one. This is, I love this one. I call it nudge the nudges. So in the last 7 days, if I've nudged an agent on a lead, and let's say we nudged John Smith, the lead's name is John Smith, for not calling him back. And with 5 days later, I can come in here and I can see all the leads that I've nudged in the last 7 days. So we've nudged 296. And of the 296, 69 have been corrected. Now, we just nudged on Monday, right? So they have until Friday to correct these additional 230 nudges. And I can manually do it. I can click manage. I can go through them. I can reassign all of them. And I'll talk about how that works on my team in a moment. Then we've got, if you have Ylopo, you've got some amazing seller hand raiser. So hand raiser means they're raising their hand. Can you come over and tell me how much my home is worth? The fact that a day goes by and we haven't called that or texted that person, that's a problem. That's a rule break, right? Buyer hand raiser. I would love to tour the inside of 123 Smith Street. Can you please show it to me, right? A day goes by and we haven't called that person, that's a problem, right? Then any AI activity, so AI voice, AI text, any conversations that AI is having with leads, if we're not talking to that person after they spoke with AI within 2 calendar days, that's a nudge. And right now I've got 16% past due, right? And I think that's 3. So I'll click see details. I've got 3, right? I click manage. I'm like, okay, wait a second. Why the AI? Okay, now it's only 1. So that's good. But we've got 1 lead that's spoken to AI. We gotta, I gotta talk to my agent about that, right? And then there's just general priority. So this isn't hand raiser, but it's still really important. The buyer keeps coming back to our website, and 3 days have gone by. Nobody on my team has called, texted, or emailed. Big deal. They've buyers interested in a specific property, and no call, text, or emails in 3 days, right? This is where most of your past dues are going to come from. Seller keeps checking their home value. 3 days have gone by, no activity. They updated their phone number on our freaking website and 12 hours have gone by and nobody has called or texted the new number the lead has provided. So annoying, okay? And the fact that I'm able to see that right here, if it happens, is a big deal. And then this is just general AI activity. So this is where they set an appointment. So the high priority is they set an appointment. The lower priority is a conversation's occurring, but there's no appointment set. In either instance, so I'm going to stop sharing. You're able to very quickly see really important metrics in your business. Now, I wrote a book on being too nice, right? So taking leads from my team and reassigning them to other agents doesn't really vibe with that whole too nice methodology. So what did I do? Right? I went to him and I said, guys, you're just too busy. You got too many leads. You don't want all those leads. Oh, it's so messy. You probably can only manage 50 human relationships. And I'm being gracious, but you know what? I'm going to let you manage 100 relationships. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Over the next 60 to 90 days, I'm going to start nudging these leads as an FYI for you, that I see something in your database, in your leads that assigned. I see an opportunity and I'm going to start highlighting those and paying attention to the agents. This is all I said. I'm going to start paying attention to the agents that aren't following up with leads. Now, I don't buy Zillow or Realtor leads. Nothing wrong with Zillow or Realtor.com leads. They're amazing. They're expensive. And I feel like as a team owner, when you're buying those kinds of leads, you can basically say, oh, you're not going to do your job? Fine. I'll find 3 other agents to do it. With leads from Google and Facebook, however, I really need my agents to work hard to generate the opportunities. So the management style is a little bit more subtle because I need them to buy into the narrative. So after about 60 days, I said to them, all right, and I took this from Daniel, we're going to nudge the leads on Monday. If you haven't corrected the nudge by Friday, I'm going to tell you that in the month of August, I'm going to start reassigning those leads. So all July, they started paying attention to it. They're like, well, come August, we're going to start losing leads. What we found was a lot of success stories and a lot of failures. We had agents raise their hands and say, Barry, you started this nudge process, and I just called 2 out of my 50 pipeline deals, and 2 of them went to an open house and bought the open house property with the listing agent. And it was like 2 million in volume, so what is that, like 60 grand in gross commissions lost. So by the time August came, I said, all right, guys, we're going to start this new reassignment policy. And we nudged on Monday, come Friday. And what I did was we examined, this was before the new release, so I didn't have the nudges. We examined last communication, right? We examined the lead source and the agent, and we manually went in and started reassigning. And that's when I went to the developers. I said, hey, I can't really have an admin do this for me. I'm not comfortable with it because there's nuances here. I know this one agent went out of town for 2 weeks. I don't want to reclaim her leads or reassign her leads while she was on vacation, right? So those little nuances scared me as a business owner. So now with all these nudges, it allows us more control and filtration of, let me go back in and just share with you guys so you can see it. So like with nudges, I'm able to go in and when we nudge on Monday, I'm able to manage. I'm able to see when we nudged. So here's the nudge right here, right? I'm able to see it on August 26th at 7:12, we nudged them. We've nudged the lead once. The last thing the assigned agent did was send an email. And since I zoomed in, it's not, okay, here we go. But I didn't select for team. So this is her sphere. So I wouldn't reassign that anyway. But what you're able to now start to see is, so like, here's Mary's lead. We nudged her on the 26th and she created a task. All she's done is send an outbound text. Then I'm able to reassign the leads that have been neglected. Now, the script we're using is really important. I did not tell my agents that we were going to do this, but I did have an ISA. I had an ISA prioritize all the reassigned leads. We reassigned 400 leads to her. This is about 3 weeks ago. And as it stands today, she's called all of them, texted all of them, and she set 40 new appointments with our agents. So 10% appointment ratio with these leads. Here's the script. Hi, this is Fay Lynn with Better Homes and Gardens. I'm the client care coordinator, and we just wanted to see, did you ever find that home that you were looking for? That's it. Super open, super general. If they say they're still looking, then the ISA says, that's fantastic. How's your agent doing? If our agent is brought up by the lead, so if they say, oh, John is fantastic, I just love how he works with me, he understands me, we do our agent a solid. We reassign that lead back to John and we say, all right, John, according to the data, you're blowing it, but you're doing something right. They brought you up. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, they don't bring it up a lot. Most of the leads have forgotten my agent. I would say out of the 40 appointments, 37 of them forgot the agent and 3 remembered their agent. Mm-hmm. And of the 37 appointments, we've already got deals under contract as a result of reassigning those leads back to somebody else. And so from a mindset standpoint, if you don't have a punitive culture, like if you're not a do this or you don't get anything, there's a way to use nudges in a collaborative way. Hey guys, you're overwhelmed. You're too busy. We're leaving opportunities over on the table. And so I'm going to nudge you on Monday. I'll give you 5 days. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to start the task of reaching out. Now, if you don't have an ISA to do that, I would have an admin send text message to those leads. Use that same script, right? I'm the client care coordinator. Wanted to see if you ever found that home you were looking for, right? Then they say yes. Then you use that. Okay, how's your agent doing? And if they don't remember it, then we set that consult for an educational appointment. That's the appointment that we're setting, is for a buyer consult. And so for us, the nudges have been a really big deal because what we've been able to do is we've been able to not leave any money on the table. And whereas before the nudge tool was all like the past, like the stages that we've already converted, right? That's kind of it, or the tasks that we've already made that we missed. Everything was looking based on what you've said about the lead. here are things and rules we think you should pay attention to. And so what I want you to see is now the system is not only looking back in time. The system is looking also in the future. These leads are acting interested. That's the whole significance of those Ylopo filters. These leads look like there's something here and nobody on your team is reaching out. And the nudges is telling you presently as a team owner, these are leads that you found and you told your sales team they're missing an opportunity. And 5 days have gone by, or 6 days or 7 days have gone by, and nobody's reached out, even though you nudged them, and they get a text and an email and it's putting a tag on a lead. That's the other thing I was going to say, is that tag that gets added to the lead, that gets put in a smart list. So my sales team has list number 1, which is new leads, 2, old leads that are still active and unconverted. List number 3 for my team is called missed opportunities. The missed opportunities list is only looking for the Mav nudge outstanding. So I'm prioritizing what Maverick is discovering by putting all those leads in list number 3 for the team. I'm not having them depend on those emails and text messages, although they're great from Maverick. I'm having them work through as a daily workflow those nudges. And what I tell them is, if you're too busy to prospect, you're showing homes and you're slammed, and you only have one afternoon, an hour and a half to do your follow-up and do your calls, do not call new leads that week. Avoid the compulsion of trying to find someone new. Go to list number 3, prioritize the humans, we call them leads, but prioritize the humans that you've already found that have some kind of intent that you are missing. This has also surfaced a fundamental problem in my organization. Most of my agents did not know how to do lead nurture. They would say to me, you said talk to them every 3 weeks. They're not buying for 2.5 months. Why am I calling them every 3 weeks? That's what they're saying. And if you don't know, if you haven't had this conversation with your sales team, I guarantee you the reason why they're not nurturing their leads and they're always calling someone new is because they're compulsively avoiding bothering the people. They're like, oh, John was so nice to me the last time I talked. I don't want to bother them. So all I had to do was teach them to always have something of value and make the purpose of the call giving them some information. Hey, John, I saw this. Hey, John, I've got this blog. Hey, John, I've got this guide. Hey, John, I saw a house. I know you're not ready, but I wanted to send it to you. Always have something to give them. It's just like when you're door knocking and you knock on the door and they open the door and you're trying to announce the open house. What's the first thing you do? You shove that piece of paper in their face, right? You get the attention off of you and you're like, hey, open house. That's what you've got to do on the phone with these lead nurtures. There is more money in your organization calling these nudges than there are calling new leads. I said what I said.
Yeah,
all right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just touch on the same point. I think we run similar cultures, organizations where I don't like to be a bad guy. I love your book. Plug for it right there. It's awesome.
Thanks,
I consider myself a pretty nice person, and sometimes that can get in the way of accountability. But I love that the nudge is the accountable system. Like this, the Maverick is kind of becomes the bad guy in some way. But we did the very similar thing what you did, and said it like, hey, I'm giving you this gift by not overwhelming you with so many leads. Like, let me help you. Like, you got a lot on your shoulders, and that is a game changer when you start to say it that way. The other thing I would say is do it like Barry did when you roll it out. Don't do it like we did. You can get nudge happy. You can be like, oh, you start to see like, this is fun. I can click this button and the 50 agents or 10 agents get a text that says they're overdue. It's like, right? And, we didn't tell them, we didn't roll it out. We started getting unsubscribes. Agents are like, what the heck? I'm getting some spam, So I think it's important that you roll it out in that way, in a soft way, and say, hey, you're going to get these, get used to it. By this date, we're going to start taking some load off your shoulders because it's telling us that you probably have too many if you haven't corrected them. So the last thing I'll say, I appreciate you sharing yours. You are vulnerable because there's a lot of red. There's a lot of red in there. It's like you could have gone through and fixed all those problems before you came up. But I think that's the beauty of it is Maverick is like, here's the problems. This is what you need to fix. Red, green, So I appreciate you being vulnerable there because that's where we all are.
I mean, to be honest with you, unless you're paying your agents a salary and they're W-2 employees, it's like herding cats. It is. Yeah. And let's just accept the fact that that's the way that it is. I have discovered, however, that giving them a carrot of a benefit to working hard has performed better for me than anything else. And so telling them, if you are in the top 50% for effort of calling and texting, if you represent the top half of my organization for just trying, you literally can be horrible on the phone, but you're calling more people than everybody else, I'm going to get an ISA to give you a lead next week. That has tripled the effort of outbound dials and text in my entire organization. Like, just a game changer. All right, so we don't have a lot of time left. I knew I would spend more time on the nudges because it was a big release and I didn't want to skip over it. Hopefully you guys are as excited as Daniel and I are about that. The last thing that I wanted to talk about is AI grading. So Maverick is programmatically listening. This month, it's listened to 474 calls in my follow-up boss. A call conversation is over 2 minutes, and it's listening to all of them. Now, what I decided to do was, in the beginning of July, I noticed a problem. This number right here was 40%, okay? And that number meant that out of 10 conversations with new leads, 4 out of the 10, my agent said we should meet. So 10 conversations, 4 out of the 10 we should meet. And about 45%, 40 to 45% of the time, the lead said yes. So out of 10 conversations, we said, do you want to meet? And about 1.7 out of the 4, so just under half, but let's just do 2. Let's just call it 2. 2 out of the 4 said, sure, I'll meet. So then the beginning of July, I was like, guys, you are blowing it. Just tell them, don't ask them, tell them this is the largest purchase of your life. It deserves careful consideration and wise planning. Literally, this is what I told them to say. This is the largest purchase of your life. This is the largest sale of your life. It deserves careful consideration and wise planning. In light of that, we need to meet. I want to spend 45 minutes with you and go over the process in detail. You should not be guesstimating on these numbers. It's too important. Now, I like to do these appointments Wednesday afternoons or Saturday mornings, but I can be flexible. What works best for you? That's what I told them to say, right? So the beginning of July, they were like, fine, Barry, I'll do it. It jumped to 70%. And guess what stayed the same? The number of times they said yes. So the aggregate to my organization now, instead of asking 4 out of 10 conversations, now they're at 7 out of 10 conversations, right? So now, instead of getting 2 appointments out of 10 conversations, now I'm getting 3.6 or 4. I've literally doubled the number of face-to-face appointments that my team is having as a result of that one metric, just one, right? The other thing that I want to say here, now, if I showed you this week, we've dropped back down to 50%. So just so you know, you don't say it once and they remember. Like, they're intelligent, they're hardworking, and sometimes they're like toddlers. You got to remind them, right? They fall off the focus. Some other things that I noticed when I'm looking at specific timeframes are this: my sales meetings are freaking money now. I'm able to say, hey guys, I know by looking at your calls for this week, interest rates being too high is something that comes up a lot because it's bigger, right? Not this very second means maybe one person. See how it's smaller? The bigger ones, it's come up more than once, right? My credit score is not high enough, right? I don't feel like going to this. I don't feel like going to Newport News either, to be honest with you, but it's not really into buying another house. So you see all this, right? So I'm able to teach my team specific examples. I'm also able to say, hey, you guys aren't overcoming your objections very much, right? We need to work on that. The other thing, similar to what Daniel did, I look at the number of calls graded. I could just sort who has the best score, but this person only called one time. Like, I don't care about that. I want to know who's actually calling this week and what are their scores. And then I'm able to train effectively. Now, as I started to do that and look at the grades, I started to see some themes. The same agents were calling the same amount of times, same amount of conversations, same scores. So then I went to each one. I said, hey, I see you working. What a great thing to hear from your team leader.
Yeah.
I see you putting in the effort. I know that you don't have any deals on the board, but 3 weeks in a row, you're crushing it with calls. And I see you're consistently getting a 6 for a grade. Let me sit down with you. Let's talk through some of these things. And then what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you call the AI robot. I call it robot. I don't call it AI because I feel like AI is used so much. I want you to call the coach number. I want you to practice on the robot. And I'll sit here with you and we'll talk about it after, right? And then what we found is when we're hiring a new agent, we have them call the standard buyer and the standard seller 2 times a day for the first 2 weeks. I've been training agents for a long time. I have never moved the needle from a phone sales script perspective as fast as I do now. Mm-hmm. Nothing has ever allowed my team to perform well as a new agent to calling leads as having them practice. Surprise, surprise, role play really does work. But what we've discovered is the fact that they're calling AI robot, even though they're afraid, they're doing it in the car, they're doing it at 11 o'clock at night, they're doing it where they feel safe because they're nervous. And so they go off and they go by themselves and they practice. They don't have to feel like they're looking stupid anymore. And so I found that they try harder. And then the last piece to this is when I sit with my agents and I point out these specific metrics and I say, here's a script you're using. Here's something that I think you should change, right? Really granular training as a result of this data. It works. And that agent then goes and they get somebody under contract. Well, guess what I do? I interview that agent. I've got so many stay-at-home moms on my team absolutely crushing it with their part-time gig, full-time mom, part-time agent. And they're like, just tell me what to do. Just tell me what you want me to do. And I look at the data and I'm like, do these 3 things. And it works. And then they get somebody under contract. And I could tell my team all day long, listen to me, I'm a coach and da-da-da. But I have found the iterative impact of having somebody that doesn't fit the mold, like the new agent that shouldn't be crushing it and is, interviewing that agent. Hey, you just got 123 Smith Street under contract. Tell us the story. That's what I asked. Tell us the story. How'd you meet him? I said, I called him. I used the script you told me to. Okay. All right. What'd they say? Why did they tell you they weren't ready yet? What was their objection? Well, they said that they were waiting for rates to change. What'd you say next? And they tell me. And then I say, okay, well, how did you close? Like, how did you meet them? They're not even approved yet. Oh, I used your buyer presentation script and they met with me and I freaked out because I didn't even know what to do. Right. And then we met. I had one agent. She was like, yeah, I just really like comfort food. I couldn't believe she said this. I really like comfort food. So they said they weren't ready for a year. And I said, well, why don't we go over the process? Do you guys like Waffle House? And I said, excuse me, did you say you met them at a Waffle House? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, what was their average sales price or what were they looked at? She was like, he was an officer in the Navy and they were looking at about a $500,000 to $600,000 home. And in our market, that's a lot. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, I wouldn't have picked a Waffle House, but it worked. Right. And everybody on the team's like, oh my gosh. So what are the 4 things, Daniel? I feel like if everybody executes on the 4 things we talked about, they'll crush it. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, it's only going to help, and it's only going to point out the areas that you need to improve in your business. I didn't know how flawed my business was until I started using it, and I started to see trends, greens and reds and all that stuff. So I think I would encourage people to give it some time because Maverick is not one of those tools that in 5 minutes you're going to be like, okay, I see a result from it. It's a business building tool. I mean, it's got some amazing things that it can do, like tricks, so to speak, but like use it as like a business building partner almost. And with that, you have to invest into it. You got to click around, you got to poke around, you got to see, what does this mean? What does this mean? And the more you do it, like I said, I've been using these reports for like 3 years. I cannot imagine running my business without it. Like I would just crawl in a corner and cry because I wouldn't know what's happening. So don't feel like you have to know it all today. I think just take little bits and say, what is one thing I can learn today and apply? And then the next day, what's one little thing I can learn and apply? So yeah, I'm excited to see how it affects so many people.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if you, Lexi, if somebody was watching this, so the 4 things, right? So Daniel went over pro dispatch, sales report. I went over the nudges, and I went over AI, and we gave practical examples of how it's working in our business. If you're getting off this and you're more excited and overwhelmed than you are dialed in and focused on what you should do next, I want to encourage you to reach out to Lexi and her team. Lexi, how can they do that?
All right. So if you know who your client success manager is, I've got Ale, Amber, and Rachel on this call, but they are going to be one of these individuals. We also have our support team who can easily meet with you guys, but we just did in-depth training with our team all last week. So all this like golden nuggets that you've gotten from Barry, we and Daniel, we have elaborated on those and we can go deeper with you. So just book a meeting with your CSM. And then also guys, be on the lookout. But next week we are having new webinars launch, or I'm sorry, trainings on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays every week. So if you feel like you need more hand holding, be on the lookout for those because we're going to be setting those up and sharing those links.
That's amazing. And, you know, my encouragement to you guys, pick 1 or 2 things and just execute on them. You probably wrote down 3 or 4 cool ideas. Seriously, just pick 1 thing, master it, move it on to the next one. The most successful people I know behind closed doors are typically a hot mess. But what they've mastered is when they see something or one good idea, they're like, screw it. I'm just going to obsess about that one thing until I nail it. I'll figure out the rest later. That would be what I recommend here. And I did just put the buyer appointment script in chat. Drew requested it, and so I put that in there. So grab it if you have not seen it.
Yep. We are also going to be sharing this recording with everybody who is present today, and we are also going to make more content based off of this. So if you ever feel like you need to revisit it, just know that that's going to be shared this upcoming week as well.
All right. Sounds good, guys.
Thank you so much, Barry and Daniel.
Yeah.
You guys have been
Good.
fantastic. Can't thank you enough. But everyone, thank you for joining. We'll see you all hopefully on office hours and things next week.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Brilliant.
Bye.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, guys.